about to go and grab something to eat, but I thought I'd go ahead and take kind of a long way around while I talk about our next subject for Grand Canyon, life at the Grand Canyon. So today I'm just going to show you a little bit of our town here while I'm taking this long way around. Today I'm going to talk about concessionaires at national parks, and this is not just for Grand Canyon. This is about, well, this in particular, I'm going to be more specific on Grand Canyon, but this generally applies for most national parks, at least in the United States. I can't vouch for any of the other national parks when it comes to specifics. But, so anyway, at our national parks here in the United States, many times if they're very large and you have people that work there, in terms of the service industry, most of them are going to be hired by or work for private corporations and not the government. So you do have National Park Service, which is, of course, a government institution, as I mentioned in my crime video. And those people are are direct employees of the government. And that is the federal government. And then, if you have larger national parks like this one, where you have people in service industries such as Yosemite National Park, Zion National Park, Olympic National Park. There was one I was thinking, Yellowstone. That's what I was thinking of. Yellowstone, and of course here, you're going to have, like that bus you just saw. They're all going to be operated not by the government, but by private corporations. And those corporations are concessionaires. They are companies that have specifically been contracted by National Park Service to be allowed to work, to operate within the park, and to operate any sort of business within the park. You have to have some sort of contract with the federal government or with National Park Service. Otherwise, you can get in trouble for that. I don't know what this person's doing. That often happens in national parks. You have people who have no idea what they're doing. You can't turn around here. This is a one-way road. That better be a 90-degree turn. Okay. So at this particular national park, we have something like 3 or 4 concessionaires. There is Paul Revere, who operates the bus service. Oh, by the way, if you don't really want to hear all the boring stuff, I will get to some of the stuff about hotels and everything in a little bit later, and I will put that at the bottom of the video, what time you should skip to. So anyway, you have the shuttle buses. There are a lot of national parks that do have free shuttle bus service. And the shuttles operate like public transportation. Imagine going to a city like Los Angeles or Chicago or New York. It is exactly that kind of bus, except that you don't have to pay. All you do is just get on the bus, and it transports you from one bus stop to the next. And then here, that concessionaire is Paul Revere. Yes, as in the famous American Revolutionary. There's also Delaware North, who operates the general store. Actually, they operate anything basically east of historic village area, which is the General Store, Yavapai Lodge, and Desert View Watchtower. There's also Xanterra Parks and Resorts. And then you have Bright Angel Bicycles, which is a company that allows you to rent bicycles here at the park. And you can ride along all the trails. And you can either rent the bike by the hour, by a few hours, or even by a day. And the maximum price, I believe, is about $35 for the day. And then you have the Grand Canyon Association. Now, I know here and at Yellowstone we have private institutions, or not private institutions, charity, like a charity is not the word I want to use. There's a private association usually that puts all their money directly towards the park, towards the upkeep. Because if you pay attention to some of the government things that happen here, a lot of National Park Service funding is very limited. So you often have these private charity associations, and they operate. They're only localized towards that specific park, and they operate stores or things like that, and they get memberships, and those sorts of things go directly towards the park. They go towards upkeep. They go towards if there's anything that happens, they help maintain it. They go towards helping restore buildings and trails. For instance, there have been a few times when some of the trails inside the canyon have gotten washed out from a really bad thunderstorm, and they'll go in and finance, put up a lot of the money to fix that. Or if there's any kind of updates, like there have been a couple years ago, bathrooms were added. A large section of public bathrooms were added near one of the trailheads, so that people can use the bathroom more easily. And they financed that. And it was a pretty large construction project. So you have all of those. All of those are the ones specifically here. Each park has a different set. And sometimes they're operated by different companies. Sometimes they're operated by the same company. For example, Delaware North and Xanterra are both pretty known to be park concessionaires, and they operate in different areas. Xanterra does a lot of American national parks, and they have some cruise ships and some other hotels in the mega corporation they're part of. And they operate in parks such as Zion, some kind of park up in Ohio, and what other parks? A few other parks I can't think of off the top of my head. But they're mainly United States. Delaware North does mainly stores for national parks, for the American national parks. They also apparently they do a lot of sports stadiums, concessions at the sports stadiums here in the States. But they're very well known apparently abroad. Apparently they have a lot of properties over in England and Australia. They're very big over there, I understand. So, and now where that comes into play is that you have to look for their respective websites. There are travel sites that pose. There is a travel site that poses as National Park Service. I believe that's U.S. Park and Resorts. They're a travel agency. So they're a third party. They are not Park Service. But they often misrepresent themselves as Park Service. So what you would have to do is look for the term Grand Canyon Lodges. I believe that's some of the term that you would have to exactly look for, and those would be between Yavapai and the other 5 lodges. Now, if some of you have been here before, you're probably saying to yourself, wait, I thought all the hotels were operated by one company. Yes, that was the case up until the beginning of last year, 2015. National Park Service split the contract. By the way, that is how we know who works at which park. Once again, because Park Service has a set contract for a certain number of years, and they have bidders bid on to work in a certain location for a certain number of years. So one of the nice things about living in such a rural place is the job security, because even if you do if a different company takes over your location, because we're so remote, you're not necessarily going to get fired from your job. You're more likely just to change companies, or you can stay with the company that you're with if your company is working in a different location within the same park, like here or Yellowstone. So yes, they were up until 2015. Xanterra did operate all of the hotels here, and Park Service had split the contract differently, so that everything east after a certain point goes to one company. Everything west of a certain point goes to a different company in terms of lodgings and services. In terms of services, and Delaware North won the contract for the eastern portion of the park, which means they, in addition to keeping the general store, they also acquired Yavapai Lodge and Desert View, which in the past had been operated by Xanterra. So now, used to be in the past that if you wanted to, and what that meant was in the past, you were able to switch between any hotel without any sort of consequences, no cancellations, anything like that. But now, because they're different companies, they're different internet services, different food establishments, different ways to arrive or make arrangements if you're arriving by train. So you just kind of have to be more aware if you're staying at Yavapai Lodge and pay attention a bit more to what you're doing, because the process isn't necessarily handled as smoothly. And that's not to say anything bad about Yavapai Lodge, Delaware North. It's just different now. Let's see. And so everything outside of the park, which I just left, you might have seen me just past the park gate. So everything outside of the park is independent, and which is why you might not have heard of any of the companies I had mentioned before: Xanterra, Delaware North, Paul Revere, that sort of thing. Because those are mostly park concessionaires. Now that I'm approaching the town outside the south entrance to Sion, you're going to notice more independent chains. So we do have a McDonald's and Wendy's outside. There's a Holiday Inn out here. Xanterra did buy one of the hotels out here. Yeah, just more independent names. There is also a Pizza Hut inside of the IMAX. So if you wanted to get a medium pizza or just like a personal pan pizza, you can get that from there. Yeah, you can see me approaching now. So because this is a completely different town, and it's outside the park, once again, it is more independent. You don't have to sign contracts or anything like that. It's the same thing as anywhere else. You acquire some land, make sure you can build a place, and set up your establishment. That's right, we do have the gas station out here. Alrighty. So, if I can think of anything else, I will mention that on the way back. I'm just gonna go and grab some chow real quick. So, I will see you guys in a moment. Alright, hey YouTube, I am back. I'm gonna take another slightly long way to go around this roundabout now that I grabbed what I needed. Just to see if I can grab this look at the airport for a moment here. Let's see. Nope, can't see it from here, sorry. But it's right on the other end of that roundabout. Alright. Now, back to some of the questions some of you might be having. Now, you might be asking yourself, so how does this whole concession thing and these contracts within the park, how does that affect me? Why should I care about that? Well, you don't have to care about it. I'm just giving you information on that. In case, because we do get some people who follow everything very closely in terms of national park business. But some of it does affect you, as I mentioned with the whole Yavapai thing. Back when it was all one company, you could seamlessly switch between hotels without incurring any extra charges, making any cancellations, having a smoother ride up on the train without having to make any extra arrangements. You could do it just with making one phone call. Now, another way it can affect you is in that, let's say you just show up and you want to, say, do a tour. You show up and you're like, I want to go hiking, but I want someone to show me how to go hiking. Now, because of the whole concessions thing and contracts and the federal government limiting who can operate what business in the park, what that means is that if you take a tour, if you take certain tours, you cannot get picked up in the park, or you cannot make those arrangements with a live person in the park and just kind of do it off the cuff. So, for example, there are only three types of tours that you can make on the spot within the park. That is a bus tour, that is a mule tour, and the free kind of mini tours that the rangers do, because the rangers have programs within most of the national parks. If it's a very large national park, they'll usually have some sort of program that informs people, like a talk or a walk, like a nature walk or something like that, where they kind of talk about things about the park or show people around the park. And it's usually not very big. Like, the walks are exactly that. It's a walk, and they usually don't go for more than an hour or for 45 minutes. Now, let's say you want to take an actual tour with a company. For example, if you wanted to do a hiking tour, there are companies that do hiking tours. And camping tours. There are people that do Jeep tours within the park. and they can operate them, but they can't do that within the park, or you can't pick that up within the park. For example, Pink Jeep Tours. When I was passing by by one of the last buildings, you might have noticed a small line of pink Jeeps to the left. And that is Pink Jeep Tours. They're a tour company that operates out of Sedona. They also have branches in, of course, Sedona. They have a branch right out there in Tucson, and they have one in Las Vegas. I'm sure they have them other places else, but I haven't really seen them anywhere else. But if you wanted to take a Pink Jeep tour, for example, you had an arrangement with Pink Jeep Tours. You have to go out to the IMAX outside where we just passed and get on and board the Pink Jeep tour there, and then they bring you in the park and they do a little tour, like a 3-hour tour or something. And if you wanted to do like a hiking tour, you would have to go to Flagstaff actually. And Flagstaff, as I mentioned in some of my previous videos, is about an hour and a half from here. So you have to make those arrangements pretty well in advance. And that's the only place where they have them is in Flagstaff. They have you can make the companies for the hiking tours are down there. Their guides come from Flagstaff up here, and they meet you here at Grand Canyon. They will tell you where they will meet you, and that's between you and your tour company. No one else is really going to know anything about that besides you and the other people in your tour and the tour guide. So that's how that might affect you. So you definitely do have to make those kind of arrangements well in advance. So as I mentioned before, there are lodgings within the park. There are 5 of them. Not 5. Excuse me. There are 6. There's 7. There's 7 within the park. There are. Is that right? Sorry. No, 8. Sorry. There are 8 within the park. I keep messing that up. There's 8 within the park. There's 6 on the South Rim. There's 1 on the North Rim. And there's 1 inside the canyon. Now I'm talking about within the borders of the national park. I'm not talking about Supai, which is a town that is inside of Grand Canyon, which is inside of the Grand Canyon. That is run by the Native Americans, and you would have to make your arrangements with them, and that's someplace else. That's a bit west of here. It's a little bit, yeah, it's a bit west of here. A little bit northwest of Seligman. And so, in terms of the national park, there are 8 lodgings you can go to. There are 5 that are operated by Xanterra. There's 1 that's operated by Delaware North. Oh no, excuse me. There's 6 that are operated by Xanterra. There's 6 that are operated by Xanterra. 1 operated by Delaware North, and 1 operated by Forever Resorts. The reason I never mentioned the one by Forever Resorts is because they're on the North Rim. Forever Resorts is on the North Rim. I can show you that at a different time. You can actually, if you know where you're looking, you can actually see the Grand Canyon Lodge, which is on the North Rim. You can see it with the naked eye if you know where you're looking. And the Grand Canyon Lodge on North Rim is only open for about 5 or 6 months out of the year. 5 months. It's open for 5 months out of the year. There's a pink Jeep right there. That's what I was talking about. They're open from May 15th to October 15th. October 15th. However, the North Rim opens from May 15th until either December 1st or the first very large snow, whichever comes first. The one operated by Delaware North is, of course, Yavapai Lodge as of 2015. It's been operated by Delaware North. And the 6 operated by Xanterra are El Tovar, which, if you've ever seen National Lampoon's Vacation, that's the hotel that they stop at. That's the hotel they stop in front of when they get to Grand Canyon. That is an actual hotel here. There's El Tovar. There's Bright Angel Lodge, which I mentioned. No, that's in a reaction video. Never mind. There's Bright Angel Lodge. Both of those are historic hotels. There's Thunderbird and Conchita Lodges. And then there's Maswick Lodge. And the one I hadn't mentioned before is Phantom Ranch. Phantom Ranch is a lodge that is inside the Grand Canyon. There are only 3 ways to get to that. If you've seen my departing Grand Canyon video, you might remember there's only 3 ways to get to that. You can either hike there, you can take a mule down, or you can raft. You can raft in and from the river it's something like a mile from there, so it's a relatively short hike. So those are the different places that you can stay at, and those are the ones that are operated by each company. So just make sure you're very aware of that whenever you come out here. You might be able to do Expedia when you come here, if you're planning on coming here, but that might be seasonal. I'm not 100% sure on that. Besides that, the only real way to do that is either through US Parks Resorts, which is the travel agency I mentioned before. I know Bonatel, which is an international company. They do some stuff, or you can do it directly through the hotels, which is Grand Canyon Lodges, and you can Google that for Yavapai or the other 5 lodges. All right, so I'm gonna get ready to go home. Until next time, I will see you guys later. Hope you liked your